Hey everybody, it's Allison again, www.stlprostress.com. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Today's topic is going to be on the quadriceps, and specifically, well, we've got 4 quads: VMO, Vastus medialis oblique, rectus femoris, Vastus intermedius, and Vastus lateralis. And mostly what we're going to talk about here today is Vastus lateralis and the VMO. The VMO is this little teardrop muscle, and it sits right on the inside of the knee. And it originates at the tendon of the adductor magnus, actually, and it feeds and it inserts into the medial aspect of the patella. So it is quite different from a lot of the other quad muscles. Now, I saw an Instagram video of a personal trainer that I follow, and he was saying, oh, you cannot get on like the leg extension machine and isolate the VMO. You just can't do it because they all feed into the same thing. Well, they don't. So the VMO exerts a medial force on the patellar, and the Vastus lateralis, who's on the outside, exerts a lateral force. But the VMO actually has a lot more power because of the striations of the muscles, which are nearly horizontal. So if you are on the leg extension machine, and I don't have a leg extension machine, but I'm just going to sit up on this chair and show you how I used to do it. This is a very personal matter to me because I have patellar tracking issues. My kneecap was pulling off to the side. And often you can overcome this injury because it will wear away the cartilage and it clicks with stretching or with surgery, where they just clip and they release the Vastus lateralis, which I really didn't want to do. So that was when I found Kihara resistant stretching, and we figured out a better way. So for those of you who do have tracking issues, one of the things that I was taught to do by a running coach when I first developed the problem was to sit on the leg extension machine with light weight, turn my toes out to try to get this little teardrop muscle activated. And I will say that while it wasn't permanent, it did help me, and it immediately, after a couple sets, relieved the clicking. So I could do stuff. I could cycle. I could run without all this clicking. Now, it didn't hold, and that's where the whole release of the Vastus lateralis came in, and Kihara came in, because the Vastus lateralis, the balancing muscle, is the medial hamstring. So I know a lot of people think, okay, well, I've got to stretch my quads for my knee health, but also you've got to activate all these other muscles, like the adductors, especially the gracilis adductor magnus, and the medial hamstring. So that's why we pair these muscles into groups. Now, if you don't have ankle weights, and I'm not saying this is going to work for you, but a lot of PTs use bands, and they'll attach a band to a fixed object, so like the edge of a table, a leg of a table, and you'll be kicking out like that. So that's another way to kind of activate it. Now, with Kihara, we have what's called a quad pump, and I've done an entire video on the quad pump where you are, excuse my chair here, you're lying down, and you're going to use your opposite leg. So you're going to take one leg up, and you're going to use your opposite leg as dead weight on top of the ankle. And you're going to kick straight up. And you're going to do this over and over again, nice and slow, just to kind of activate. This would be mostly rectus femoris and Vastus intermedius, which right underneath it. But if you change the angle of this, and you start to kick over and out to the side. Let me turn around so you can see what I'm doing. So you start to kick over and out to the side. You are going to get into some of these adductor and VMO fibers, right? And then if you kick out to the side, and I'm just going to kind of tilt my hips to the side and kick out to the side, you're going to get more into that. Especially if I turn my foot out a little bit and start getting into more of this lateral quad. So those are some ways that you can, try to activate this VMO without a leg extension machine without bands, but the bands work pretty well. I've used them. So that's topic number 1. Topic number 2 is how do you stretch them? So typically we have the lateral quad stretch, which is supine, which means face up. And to do that one, you've got your foot put out to the side, and you're going to cross your ankle, other ankle over, push the ankle this way, the knee pushes out. So they're hooked, and they're going to be pushing into each other, and you're going to rotate the knee inward. And then open back up again. So that is our lateral quad stretch. Guess what muscle's on the opposite side? It's your medial hamstring. So exact opposite of this lateral quad. And that's a good place to start. Most people can do this, even if their quads are pretty tight. So guess, my knee is internally rotating here. And you would think that would be stretching out the VMO, but it's not really. Actually, it kind of is, but you'd be better off, if you want your VMO to be stretched, you'd be better off coming at it at this angle. So typically when I'm stretching people, they are face down, either on a table and maybe a leg out. I'll do the other leg out. And if I want to stretch their rectus femoris, I'm going to go straight ahead. If I want to stretch their lateral hamstring, I'm going to bring it out to the side a little bit. And then to bring it in, I'm going to get VMO. So all these different angles you can try. It's not the easiest. Remember, when we're doing rectus femoris, which actually attaches to your hip bone, that you must have your hips posteriorly tilted. So the top edge of your hip, you want it to, like if your pelvis was a bowl of water, you would want the water to spill out the back. Because if you're bent at the hip, you're not going to get the whole entire rectus femoris because it attaches here at this hip bone, right? So when we're doing this quad at the wall, which I have a lot of videos for quad at the wall, and you're coming up into it, you're going to feel tension to begin with. We want to try to get that posterior tilt, which doesn't look like a posterior tilt, which we're here, but it is. We're trying, right? And then you're going to push into the chair and then keep pushing into the chair and back it up. You may want to just do push, back it up, push, back it up, push, back it up, and then go into the stretch by pushing, keep pushing, and then pull back into your stretch. That's a really, really intense stretch. Some people cannot manage to do that on their own. If you feel good here, if this is feeling good for you, you're probably getting a really nice hip flexor stretch, your rectus femoris and your iliacus psoas too. So it's all good. Just feel it out. That's how we learn what works and what doesn't. Sometimes it's just you feel it. So you feel you're hitting the right muscle or you're targeting the right muscle. Now, to get into these different muscles when you're in this quad at the wall stretch, so if I want to get more into my lateral quad, I'm going to take my foot and move it so that I've got a little bit of internal rotation to my back leg. And then try that stretch again. You may have to kind of turn into the leg. I do this sometimes. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but you will feel more in that lateral quad. So we're getting that internal rotation, just like the stretch where I'm lying down on the mat, right? And then if we want to get into the VMO stretch, then we're going to take the foot the opposite direction. So you're going to come back, and I definitely feel it more in my VMO. Now, besides that, if you have patellar tracking issues, and sometimes I'll be in the middle of doing something, I'll be like in a class or running or whatever I'm doing, and I'm like, oh, my knee is clicking so bad. So sometimes if I'm in a class, I'll take my thumbs, put them together, put them right on the edge. You can feel where the IT band is, and then that lateral quad is right next to it. And I'm just going to almost exactly right on the IT band. I'm going to push my thumbs and I'm going to slide it down. All the way down to the knee. Now, I know they have metal tools to do this, but if you're into self-massage, this is a really nice way to do it. Another way, if you get super tight, sometimes in the wintertime, my VMO will just get, or my lateral quad will just get so tight that I need either somebody to work on it and get into the middle, this hornet's nest here, just with some Thai massage or something. But another thing that I've found is if you get yourself a lacrosse ball and a foam roller, and you lie on your side, and you put this ball underneath your knee, right on the edge of that same point I was talking about. And I've got the foam roller underneath my feet. So I've positioned it to keep my feet up, so I'm tilted it, because I want the pressure to be, if the pressure's on my feet, I'm not going to have enough pressure from this ball. So I'm just going to kind of roll around on it and get into some of those tight areas, which is pretty much all of it. And then you can move up and down. You won't have a lot of room, you'll have to lift your hips up. You might have to lift your hips up a little bit. But, just being here is a really nice release. And you can move the ball around. That's fine. And just get into some of those pockets of tension near the tendon of that muscle. So those are some things that really help me out. And I wanted to explain why it's so important to keep these adductors and the medial hamstring activated if you do have patellar tracking issues. I will finish by saying I am not a doctor, and I'm not a PT. So I'm just giving you some information that has helped me, some things I've learned from other people, and some things that I've discovered on my own, like the lacrosse ball and the foam roller. So hoping, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'm hoping that you can take something away from this, and I'll see you next time. Happy stretching. Bye-bye.